What's up, Guru fam? You know the vibe already. We're here today on our second vlog, right? Our second official vlog. Today we have a beautiful 2016 F82 M4 that we're going to do a review on. Basically, go on the car, talk about it, get the fun facts and everything out of it. You know, all the inside scoops and everything you should know about the car when you're owning one, stuff like that, what to do. So yeah, stay tuned for that. So one thing I want to get right off the bat for this, what I really love about these F82s is the disc rotors and the brakes. Look at that. 4-piston calipers at the front, gripped. The 4-piston calipers are of course gripping a cast 380mm disc rotor. You know, sport brakes, of course, this much horsepower you have to be able to stop because an M car needs good brakes, right? So yeah, and of course these cars are sitting on some sport Michelin tires. So these are some 80 rims, of course, from factory. Really sporty rims, give the car that nice aesthetic look, and these rims are also very strong. So yeah, again, one other key feature I like to point out on this car is the power dome on the bonnet, of course. Now, a lot of people don't even think that this piece, of course, up here does anything, but that actually helps with the aerodynamic ram effect on track while the car is driving. So air actually passes through and over and goes out, along with air going over and up over the body. So the power dome actually ties in with the carbon roof that we have up here. So the shape of the power dome comes over and it lines up with this indent in the roof, and of course it goes over to the trunk and through here. So you can see where aerodynamics is really targeted with this car. Again, back on the brakes, we have single piston calipers at the back. Now these are some sport calipers, of course, from factory. This rotor size is actually the same, 380mm. So it's spread from front to back on the same exact thing. Now, this car also has some key features, some carbon lips, you know, nothing too crazy. The car is actually really beautiful with this sport white again. So yeah, and another key feature I like to point out is the quad tip exhaust. Now, we can't take that from an M4. That's one of the many key things to these cars that we really have to look at. So another thing I want to point out to you is actually the rear bumper and how the car is shaped out. Now, yeah, the stance on it is good. The stance on it is good and everything. And then, of course, another key thing I want to point out as well is the stance level on this car. Now, this car is actually on some spacers, but of course, the owner had tying with the spacers to allow the flush with the vehicle, and of course, for performance reasons as well. So the vehicle actually handles a lot better. You know, I already cover most of the rear bumper, but the front bumper is what I really want to get. Now, this car again uses ram air features for the cooling of the engine as well. So from the scoops here would lead back up along with the ducts as well that lead out to the brake caliper section there to cool the brakes. Now, the car again has scoops that lead up back to the intercooler and the parts of the twin intake system. We'll get to that section in a moment. But yeah, I just wanted to point out some really nice features on the bumper. Again, owner had added a lip that looks really aggressive, you know, carbon lip. Have to give the car the aesthetic look to, you know, tying certain points on it. Now, this car, of course, comes as standard with xenon lights or bi-xenon lights. These lights are so bright and they etch into points of the road that you wouldn't even get to see or even point out for yourself. So the car is already assisting you while driving. All right, more M performance things now. Now this, of course, is the lovely S55 inline-six 3-liter twin turbo from BMW. Now this is from M division, of course, you can see. M badge and M power. Now this engine is actually the much more souped up version for the N55, or the better version of the N55 in terms of power, you know, different cylinder bore, head work, and of course the added twin turbo system. Now, of course, this is the water to air cooled intercooler system that the car runs off of, gives it optimal peak performance at, you know, very harsh conditions at high speeds, you know, around the track if you're doing track attacks, time attacks, or anything like that. Even in the present time here, these cars are in rival with our newer G80s or newer F90 series M5s and all those kind of other M cars. So Another key thing I wanted to point out too, look at this carbon fiber strut brace. This never gets old whenever you open a bonnet for one of these cars. Never gets old. One of the many key features I want to capture the interior of the M4 now is, of course, the speed cloth in the seating. This is one of the best features that would protect you from all that heat soak when it comes on to leaving your car parked in the hot sun, and then once you jump in here, you know hot leather is not the nicest thing. So leaving it in the sun is not really a problem. And then the other thing I'd like to point out is the fact that it looks so nice. It blends in with the carbon fiber bits on the dashboard, on the center console, and in the door inlays. So yeah, one more other thing we want to point out is the SMG transmission shift stock, or the DCT transmission shift stock, or the twin clutch transmission shift stock. This is a very unique shifter actually. Now it dates back to the E46 days, or even your older M3 models having this shifter here. You know, very nice. No park, you can't see any of that. Of course, it just stays in neutral and it has its own lockout system. Another thing I want to point out as well is the individual controls here that you have. So you have the transmission intensity, how you want it to shift, whether it's aggressive, sporty, or efficient shifting. And then again, you have the steering wheel controls, the suspension control, and the throttle control. And then you have the option to turn off traction control. Now you can turn off the stability control or turn traction control off all the way for your enthusiastic bass drivers out there. Again, another thing I want to point out on the steering wheel is, of course, the lovely M1 and M2 buttons here. So these are actually driver function buttons that you can actually set into the infotainment system and back into the car, actually, like to save and store the different driving options that you want to have, whether it is an aggressive shift from the transmission, soft response from the steering wheel, soft setting for the suspension, or an aggressive response from the gas pedal. Now, of course, the M1 and M2 button. The M2 button normally stores where they want to have all those features tied in, or just having the ability to turn off traction control all the way from here. Hence, the reason for saving the features in these buttons here. Now, another thing, yeah, of course, you have your regular interface controls here, where you have to turn the volume up, the iDrive voice command here as well, and then you have the ability to, you know, hang up and take calls from the steering wheel. Yes, let's not forget the M badging on the steering wheel, of course, and the beautiful M stitching around the inlay of the steering wheel as well. We'll just finish off on that M4 over there, so I have to come over and talk about this lovely 435i. And fun fact, this is a 2013 435i. I'm still making that one sink in, the fact that this thing is a 2013 car. But why I'm trying to make it sink in is because this car is so clean. Look at this thing. This car is so clean. Of course, this car is not stock. All the way around, this car is not stock, especially under the bonnet. This thing is definitely not stock. Things have been done to this car. That's why this car can sound how it sounds and drive how it drives. Now, the first thing I want to point out to you guys, of course, is the aftermarket rims and the kind of tires that this car is running. So this car is running Firehawk Indy 500 tires. These tires are supposed to be a bit grippier than, of course, your regular street tires. So these are still street tires, but these are still grippy tires for, of course, sports cars, or your fun have a street car. Now, going down to the brakes, this car is, of course, gripped by 4-piston M calipers at the front and regular 6-piston calipers at the back. Now, this car is still sporty going around. It still keeps its sporty features. It's not as aggressive looking as the M4, but again, it's an aggressive car in terms of just performance. And the looks of it are still aggressive going around. Now, I want to talk about the back. Of course, you can see where I was telling you that this car has been touched in the base of it just being on a performance point of view. Yes, this car has aftermarket tips on it. That actually look really, these tips looks beautiful. These tips are beautiful actually. The burnt look on them is really what gets you. Now, going back around the front here, I just want to tie in the fact that the bumper actually has a brake ducting going on the inside here and not the outside like the M4. Now, having it out here is a bit better, yes, but where I was telling you that this car is basically based around the fact that it's light performance, or M light as some people would call it. You know, it's not your full M car, but it's still a fun car to have. Again, at the front here, you might notice something about it on the M4. They use the same xenon headlights because this actually is the stages leading up to the M4. That's the thing that I love that BMW did. You have different stages in the 4 Series. You have 420, 423, 435, 440, and then you have the stages leading up to the M4. I think it's supposed to be 440 and then you get the M4 after that. So that's why you find that this uses parts off of the M4 as well. Not all the parts, but it uses parts off of the M4. All right, guys, jumping under the bonnet for this lovely 435i here, we have the notorious N55, which is everybody's German inline 6 fun havers tuning engine. Yo, this engine can take so much tuning. You can think of possibly doing everything from building the head, building the block, getting different oil cooler setup, getting different intercooler, and again, you can also think about getting a nice engine, cold air intake, of course, and then you can think about getting an 876 Motorsport downpipe, you know, or just by basically getting an intake and a downpipe. You can also get a tune with that, and you can just think about horsepower numbers immediately increasing just by doing those minor things. Just want to plug some guys, you know, 876 Motorsports are getting the lovely downpipe, or the just starting out the harmonics with how this car sound from the exhaust system. I have to plug him for that. Big shout out to him. Again, Bowler's Garage for actually fitting the parts to the car. You know, the intake, the tune, and of course, the downpipe. You know, big shout out to Bowlers for that one. Again, lovely engine, sounds good, and the performance rating on this is somewhere around 300 thereabout. It starts from factory, and then it can increase with tuning or anything like that you want to do with it. Again, just an intake and a downpipe and you're good to go. Nothing else really needed for that. If it's a street tune or anything like that you're doing with it. All right, now guys, jumping inside of the 435i, obviously you know that it being the 435 with the M package, you already get the M steering wheel, but looking at the steering wheel, some of you guys probably already pointed out this is not the original texture for the steering wheel. It's actually supposed to be straight out about what the owner did himself, and I have to give him big props to Taj there for actually wrapping the steering wheel. The steering wheel was actually still on, and he stitched down this wrap onto the steering wheel. So big props to him for that. Normally you take the steering wheel off and you're supposed to do the stitching and everything to it, but then he didn't do it like that. So of course, you know, we make our way doing everything. Now, jumping inside of the car here, I honestly love this car for a 2013 car like this. This thing is so clean on the interior. Mats are still suede, full black leather interior, and of course this being the coupe, this has 4 seating on the interior, so seats are on the back. But again, just like the M4, it's not practical, it's not spacey around there. It's mostly for smaller people. I mean, you can fit tall people around there, but not good for long extended drives. Now, jumping back to the front here, of course, we have this nice diamond texture on the interior. It's actually really beautiful. You don't need carbon interior on this car because, of course, it's still a 435, the entry level jumping up to the M4 and the 440. Now, it being just a regular 335, of course, the controls are still over here where we have the regular 8-speed ZF transmission, or the torque converter transmission here with the regular shifter. And then, of course, you have the different button options. So Eco, Sport, Sport Plus, and of course traction control can be turned off from here. All right, now another key thing I want to point out as well, the lovely paddle shifters here. Of course, regular gauge. I love the red stocks inside of the gauge, of course, you know, that gives that aggressive feel to it. And yeah, nothing too crazy about the interior for this car. Nice leather all around. Yeah, it's good, it's real good. You still get regular storage compartments and everything, and you still get your cigarette lighter and everything in there, your penny tray, anything else you're supposed to have really, Nothing too serious, and then you get your cup holders here. And then of course this tray goes back in like this. And you can have it in there just to rest anything over it. Still a good car. Still a good car. Infotainment is nice. Sound system is good. Nothing too crazy. Nothing too crazy. So that's it basically for this interior. Really nice.